Why did you start skating?
Initially, I got a board because I just wanted to look cool, and then you actually start skating, and then it's like you understand how natural the feeling is, and it's like learning how to walk again. And that was just too much for me, so I was like, whatever, I'm not gonna skate. I don't care. I'd much rather just walk because I think most of the time people my age, when they start skateboarding, they just do it to look cool. They don't actually want like a hobby that'll challenge them mentally. That's something that I didn't understand when I first started skateboarding, and I stopped for a while because it just wasn't worth it. And because to look cool while skating, you have to look uncool for an exponentially longer amount of time. So if your whole point of skateboarding is to look cool, then you're not going to find the motivation to keep going. What motivated me was, um, I, I don't know, I think to non-skaters, skateboarding is kind of intimidating. Like if you go to a skate park and you don't know how to skateboard and you try to learn, it's really intimidating because there's a lot of good people. But I hated that feeling of just being an outsider and not being able to make friends. And I really wanted to achieve that feeling that everyone else was feeling when they land a trick or when they find a community they can relate to. So I guess I started skating because, like seriously skating because I didn't really want to be lonely. And I saw a community of people who were like throwing themselves and hurting themselves over this hobby. Um, and that was very attractive to me. Um, and I'm, like retrospectively, I'm very glad I started skateboarding because I met so many cool people. I'd say a lot of my best friends today I've met through skating. Um, and right now I'm at an interesting point because now I think skateboarding is like affecting me negatively. Um, because it's just taking too much time and it's just if you get injured then you're basically hindering all other aspects of your life like school and work, and now I kind of have to function as an adult, as an independent person. So skateboarding, it's to me it's not really worth it anymore. I would much rather have a hobby that doesn't require me to um, fall and hurt myself. But I can guarantee that the feeling that you get from like killing yourself over a trick and then landing it is probably like one of the best feelings ever. I don't think any other hobby really has that immediate reward system in dopamine. I think skateboarding is literally just going to war with a piece of like plank. Um, and at the end, if you landed, then you win. Uh, so yeah, every skater who's been skating for more than like 5 years will have an interesting relationship with skateboarding. Now they can just talk for hours. I've only been skating for like a year and a half, so I don't have too much of an interesting relationship. But a more experienced skater will have a lot more to say. Yeah.
Do you have dreams?
Uh, like goals for myself, right? Well, I do dream a lot at night. I dream. Some nights I forget my dreams, but I know I had a dream. And some nights I'll remember the dream that I had. For me, at least, dreams will always be a reminder of who I am. Because if I'm anxious, then I have a dream that'll I'll have like a dream where I'm like naked in a crowd, and my brain telling me I'm anxious about something, because in the dream I'm anxious. It's putting me in a situation where anxiety is like a spectacle that you're forced to be aware of. So when I'm experiencing like extreme mental anguishes, I'll have very interesting dreams. But also, vice versa, if I'm experiencing extreme happiness, I'll have, very, very vivid dreams of just pure joy and fun. So for me, dreams are always a constant reminder of what my subconscious is feeling at that time of my life. I also have like a lot of sleep paralysis experiences. That was hard to say. But that is always a reminder of how my sleep schedule is messed up. Every time I mess with my sleep schedule, I'll experience some weird like sleep paralysis, hallucination type thing, or like a weird lucid dream. I don't exactly know why, but yeah, if I'm taking a nap or something and I'm ruining my sleep schedule, I'll just my brain will just like freak out and do something weird.
What's an example of sleep paralysis?
Well, my first ever experience with sleep paralysis was not like that long ago. It was probably when I was 16 or 17. It was when I was in high school. And this one, I stayed up really late this night, and I just decided to sleep at like 4 a.m. I don't remember what I was doing, but I couldn't fall asleep, and I fell asleep at 4 a.m. And right as I was about to fall asleep, my brain just like woke itself up, because that's what sleep paralysis is your brain is awake but your body's asleep, basically. So it feels like everything feels like you're awake. Even your eyes feel like they're open, even though they're not, which is a strange sensation that you can only experience during sleep paralysis. But basically, I was in this waking state, and I knew immediately what it was because I watched YouTube videos about sleep paralysis, and I've always been so scared of them. So in my head, when this was happening, I was like, fuck, it's happening to me now. And I just have to deal with it. So you're very, very conscious. You're very aware of what's going on. You're aware that you're asleep. And I just remember there was like this rumbling sensation, which is common for me. For other people, I don't think it's that common, but for me, I always get this like shaking sensation where the whole room is shaking. And this shaking sensation caused my brain to start hallucinating that there was an earthquake. And it felt like there was an earthquake, and all the books on my bookshelves were falling, and like my whole room was shaking so violently, everything started falling apart. And then I would go into these like phases where I'm trying to move my neck, but something is like pushing me, and like I could barely see like my shoulder, and there was like this little like black spider on my shoulder that was like freaking me out. So I would always turn my head, and when I turned my head, there would be like a guy standing on my like next to my door, and then I would get freaked out by that, and then I would look at my bookshelf, the books were falling, and that scared me. And then I would look at the end of my bed, and there was just like a guy like standing over that. So it was like I don't know how to explain it. It was just like everywhere I looked was a weird, creepy hallucination. I just couldn't escape it. And it felt like an eternity. It felt like I was just in a loop where I was just looking back and forth for a while. And then I slipped into a lucid dream where it felt so real that I thought I thought I was just awake. And I remember I grabbed my phone, and in high school my best friend's name was Jalen. I was texting Jalen on my phone. I was like, dude, I just experienced sleep paralysis. It's so scary. Like, blah, blah, blah. I was explaining the whole thing to him. And I was like having a whole ass conversation with him on my phone. And then I put it down and I just lay back down. I'm like, thank God it's over. And then I go back to sleep, and then I wake up. For real this time. But it was such a weird sensation because I just felt like I was awake. And I'm like, I'm making sure that I'm actually awake this time. I'm like looking at my hands. I'm like touching myself, like pinching myself. And I'm like, okay, I'm pretty sure right now is real life. And I grabbed my phone to see if I had that conversation. And that conversation did not exist. So I was like, damn, I was dreaming that whole time. I just imagined it. And that was super like, I don't know, I didn't know how to feel at that point. I was just spooked out. I was very spooked out. Because I could have sworn that was real life, but it wasn't. It was like the most realistic dream I've ever had.
Did that affect how you saw reality?
Yeah, most definitely. It was like the first time I've ever just had hallucinations like that in general. So the fact that, you know, your brain can just do all sorts of weird, trippy things to you is enough to kind of freak me out. So yeah. Like I said, I didn't know how to think. I just sort of felt like the human brain was something that we just can't understand, or that there's like a level of consciousness that we just don't understand, or even just consciousness in general we don't understand. So that just made it very aware to me that our brains are still very mysterious. Even just our lives are still very mysterious. Yeah. Just things I can't understand. Man.
What is time?
Time is just in a scientific sense, it's just really like a dimension, really. You know, everything seems like, or we're just aware of time because that's just the way, that's just the direction the universe is moving. I don't know where, I don't know, I had this one thought when I was thinking about time, just like in bed, I was just thinking about time. I was trying to understand time, like, what is time? And I don't know if I had this thought, like, I don't know if this is an original like visualization or if I watched it somewhere on YouTube, so I'm not gonna take credit for it. But the way I like to look at it is just, if time was like a spatial dimension, which I don't know if it is or not. If it is, then it's interesting to think of it like a horizon, and say that you're driving like up a hill and you're at the peak and you're driving back down, and the horizon's gonna appear at a rate of how fast you're driving. And I was like, what if time was the horizon, and the horizon, like what we see is the past. So we don't know what's gonna come next, but we know the past because if it was a spatial dimension, it's because we can literally see the past, you know what I'm saying? So just thinking about time spatially is very trippy and weird, but I always like to do stuff like that in my alone time. And yeah, time is weird, but we're human beings. We have a specific metabolism. We're always just going to experience time the same way. And it's actually scientifically proven that smaller animals who have faster metabolisms will see life quicker relative to us. So like a fly that lives for 2 days experiences its whole life in 2 days, and that might be a tiny amount of time to us relative to us because we live for like 80 years. But to a fly, everything is slow motion. And that's why flies can react to things quicker, because like swatting a fly is hard. They can react to stuff way quicker than humans can. And I think that's because their lives are so short, they actually experience, you know, the sequence of time way slower than we can. That's why they can make decisions quicker than us. So that's that. I don't know. That's an even trippier thing to think about. And even just human beings, I think there's even like a study or an article that I read where like Native Americans will experience time differently than other cultures, other Western like cultures. So perception is just another indicator of who we are. Yeah.
Where do you think we go when we die?
I personally believe that all human beings have souls, or all life have some type of energy. I can't describe it. The only word I can use is energy. Some type of energy that is beyond observation in this like physical realm. I do believe that there are dimensions or spaces that we can't comprehend that are intertwined with our reality. So, yeah, I definitely believe that there's a lot going on behind the curtain than what we can see or even observe scientifically and whatnot. So, yeah, I think we're all connected in some way that we cannot physically see. So when we die, it may mean the end of our physical bodies here, but I choose to believe that our souls are all connected to something outside of this physical universe, and that I have no idea what it looks like. I couldn't even comprehend what life would be like after death. Even if you could call it life, maybe it's just like a state of like being, but see, I don't know. But I definitely don't think that dying, like if I died right now, I don't think it would be the end of my consciousness, I think. Yeah, I think I'll always be some sort of thing that could have free choice and a consciousness. Yeah.
Where do you hope to go when you die?
Ooh. That's a good question because there's always going to be a million things we don't understand in our lives, but it's always fun to imagine. So I would hope I think my greatest hope that I could ever imagine would just to be another human being, because I don't know, I can't conceive or comprehend what would be better than being a human, even if that was a thing, because I am a human being. And so, you know, I'm not gonna know what like a fourth dimensional creature will be like. I don't know, I couldn't hope for something that I can't comprehend, so I would hope to be a human again, if that makes sense. Like, yeah, I just don't know what would be greater than being human. And I've always wanted to live in different time periods, so that would be fun. That would be like reincarnation would be one way to achieve that, I guess. So I guess I would hope to be another human being in another part of the world, in another time period. Just like the complete opposite, not opposite, there's no opposites of me, but like a complete, something different to what my life looks like right now. And I hope that happens again and again and again. And I hope at the end I get to remember all the lives I've had. And then that will like make me like the most mature version of myself. Because then I know what it's like to live in all people's shoes, like in all walks of life, in all cultures, in all religions, in all but that's not an original idea I had. That's like a story that I read called The Egg by Andy Weir, I think. Where you're every human being. When you die, you just get reincarnated over and over again until you live every person's life. And then at the end, you remember every person's life. So now you're like this almighty being that knows, that's thought of every human's thought, that's done every act of violence and evil, every act of positive and loving things. I just think it's a beautiful story, because when you hurt somebody, the story implies that you're hurting yourself, because you will live that person's version. Like if I say a mean thing to somebody, then I've already lived that life before, or I will in the future. So yeah, it's also just a good way to like look at other human beings, like damn, I might be that person one day, like that's me. So
How do you feel about the future?
the future, I used to think a lot of negative things about what's happening, because things are just happening so quickly and they're just gonna get quicker and quicker. So I think like when I'm 50 or 60 years old, I'm going to live in a world where it's just gonna get harder and harder to understand the complexities of technology and so it's definitely scary to think about the unknown, but I don't know. The future is coming. Like I can't stop it. So there's no point in me. There's no point in me being afraid of it. I just think that's a waste of. I just think that's not really a rational fear to have, because it's going to happen anyways. Even death is just. The fear of death, I don't think, is even rational, because, well, it's rational in the sense that it makes sense why you would be afraid to die. But to me, it's not rational because it's not rational that you're afraid, but it's irrational if you're if it's affecting your life right now. Because I feel like that's just counterintuitive, to be so afraid of death that you're gonna avoid taking certain risks in your life, because you're gonna die anyway. So now your mentality is just affecting the quality of your life for this force that's gonna happen anyways. And that's how I think about the future. Is I might have these negative ideas about the future, and a lot of people have negative ideas, but you know, things are happening outside of my control, and I just have to find peace in accepting that. Yeah. There's no point in rejecting it. A friend recently told me to. This is gonna sound kind of weird. This is gonna sound like I'm kind of a weirdo, but I swear I'm just doing it out of curiosity. But my friend told me to read the Ted Kaczynski's manifesto. Ted Kaczynski is the Unabomber. He was like a Harvard genius apparently. He went to Harvard at 16 and he was a mathematician, and then later he like went into the woods and lived off the grid without any electricity for a few years. And then he saw, like, he just hated society so much that he started like sending these bombs to people that he thought were like bad people, so trying to like kill people. So in that sense he's a crazy person. But his whole idea was that he's like rejecting technology and modernism, and he just hated how society was changing around him, and he wrote a whole book about how he felt about like radical left people and radical right people, and he was just criticizing everybody. And he was saying how we were all just talking about issues that wouldn't be an issue if we just went backwards, as in living more primitively. That's what he wanted, because he was seeing like politicians and people just talking about issues that